Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations family, thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Actually, this day. I don't know what we're sad about. And it is time for us to go into yet another day. This is day 14 of the Secret Energy Worldwide Meditation. And the energy has been coming through. It's been lovely. We've got a chance to share so much. So we're going to begin. Well, we're already started, so we're early today. That's the good thing. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to ask everyone to take the time to turn on your camera if you are participating in the live meditation, and then also two, to get your Palo Santo and your sage and get it going. And if you're just jumping into this conversation, which is actually a conversation and meditation, we use the Palo Santo and the sage because this is a co-creation. So we are using the geometrics and the spectrum of everybody present here to bring alignment. Some need healing, some need possible motivation, some need wisdom, some need gems just all together. And so that's what we're doing. And when we share that and that's passing through the space, we want to make sure that that keeps flowing. So also there's those here that are going through the healing process and are removing things and transmuting them. And it's important for us all to be online with the transmutation when we're doing collective builds. And that's what the Palo Santo and the Sage is for, because it works with the big collective to move the energy and put it where it needs to go. So give me one quick second here. All right, hold on. I got to fix that. Okay, so we are already rolling on our side with the video and with the live stream, and I believe that that is coming through clearly. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. It's 6:57 on my side. This is Costa Rica time. Lots happening in the world, and it's bringing something, so we're going to bring it back. That means that every time it gets turned up out there in the world and things start happening, that means that we get turned up inside and we turn ourselves on and meet the challenge and neutralize the energies. And that's what we're here to do. So today is actually Thursday, yes. And there was actually no message for today. And generally, I don't know, maybe even a day before I start getting, somewhat of a transmission about maybe what should come through tomorrow. And when it hit today, there was, well, when it hit like, okay, now let's start thinking about tomorrow, possibly, it was nothing there. So I was like, well, I'm not going to sweat it. May all jump on the line and just meditate and be silent in a silent meditation or something. And then as I was rousing myself this morning around 2:30 a.m., it kind of came through. Just swoops in like, okay, hey, think about this and possibly sharing this if it makes sense to you. So I was like, okay, well, let me hear what you got. So it's first of all building on how today, of course, is Thursday, but Thursday is Brispati or Deus Pita or Deus Pater in as the Latins say. And this planetary system, as we know it, from an image, is a gas giant, several sizes larger than most planetary systems. And we've talked a lot about Jupiter in the past, and of course, Jupiter's other name, which is Guru. And I think in the English language, we have a good programming subset for the word guru, like a teacher or instructor, right? Even though we try to then put like a face to it and we just give the structure like this beard, and then it's this old man. And then now there's kind of like this tradition of old men with beards being the instructors. And, we're here to actually get something different happening. And so if we do the same thing over and over, we'll only get the results that we have right now. If we're looking for some vast results, maybe we decide to change things back to the original. Anything wrong with the original? Put it onto the original setting, and then that way, since that setting lasts for billions of years, we'll work with that. So even having, let's say, a male figure only in the mind when one thinks about guru is the first error. because what happens is that truly for most beings in this world, when they come into this world, their first instructor is actually generally a woman. And actually, forget actually and generally, there is an instruction taking place in the womb. So the woman is technically giving that instruction. So in this case, the woman would be the guru, or the feminine energy would be the guru. Now, as we've also had to do, is we have to untwine a lot of these misconceptions, things in the language that are off. And we've been doing that on our path that we've been going on this meditation of clearing energy, bringing ourselves into a greater stage of awareness, sharing with each other, just being here. It's not always a prerequisite for us to do anything. We can just be. But since many of us have uniqueness and we like sharing, then we bring that uniqueness into the space and we give that to each other as gifts. Like there are many here now that are giving us their gifts with their presence alone. Think about the word presence, present, gifts, right? Giving something. And many that are here giving something are giving with their presence, and they're giving us presence. So it's not always even the orator or the person that's talking. Generally, what we do energetically is we designate a mouthpiece for the sounds to come out of, but it's not necessarily that person's own volition in which that message is coming forth. It's coming forth as, let's say, that person is like a tuner, and then they tune into the station or the harmonic station, not just one station, not just one channel, but all the channels, and then their equipment, if you may, allows it to actually be articulated into something that speaks to everyone. Okay, so that is the position of a guru. Okay, and there's many other positions that the guru carries, but we'll also say if we came here today and we're sharing knowledge, that means one person's sharing the knowledge, i.e. the guru, and then others are receiving. Okay, and now when we think about this, we can think about then that because it says it's the counselor of the gods. Just so you understand, you can actually go to Wikipedia, and there's enough still there, bare bones, but there's still enough there to give you a good, I would say, a good idea of what this energy is about. And then today, what we're going to do is we're going to really display how you have to look at things deeper. You will need to know other parts of the story which take place in yourself in order to decrypt certain things. And I say it that way because if an elder, let's say 1,000 years ago, is explaining a vision from the future, large birds in the sky, screeching and making loud noise, people riding on top of these birds, drinking and pleasure and revelry, the bird falling out of the sky, killing thousands, things and wild animals running on the ground with extreme speed and their chests growling really loud. This is like a vision of this being trying to explain like what we deal with every day with planes and cars in this world, but 1,000 years ago. So if you're reading it, it's going to sound like, wow, what the heck is going on? But if you're living in it, it's going to be like, oh, well, this is normal. So you have to be able to do that with the ancient scriptures. You have to be able to see from the way that the seer is seeing, and then be able to decrypt what is being brought forth based on the time that you're actually in and the perspective that you're actually looking at this knowledge and this wisdom from. So this knowledge and wisdom says that the gods had taken themselves into counsel, that there was an actual counselor, someone that was deemed as being wise enough to be able to instruct all of the other gods about what to do. This kind of lets you already understand pretty much when we say gods, this is a very generalized term. And that's why in many cultures, they have like levels to the gods. They don't use the word gods repetitively. They have dayas, they have all the gurus, they have devas, they have all these different levels, because it's like basically saying this family line and these traits and the traits in which they exhibit and how they carry their structure in their culture. Okay. And then if you start itemizing, that's why some of the Hindu books are so long, because they have to itemize. This is his name, and this is his son, and this is his daughter, and this is her mother, and this is her father. And the Bible only does that like one time. And that's one of the most boring books in the Bible. And blah, 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 begat, blah, blah, blah. And they had 100 bushels of corn and this and this and this. And it's like nobody wants to read that part. right? And so in the Hindu text, they're full of that, of these long genealogies of exactly where the beings come from. And if people didn't believe that actually Sanskrit was the first language when it really was Tamil, they would already been able to have tapped into the wavelength and the vibration that tells the truth and the knowledge about what really happened in Lemuria and all the things that took place with the quote unquote gods, as we're just saying. When that term is so generalized, it would be like you looking for Muhammad in the Arab country right now. Where's Muhammad? Like you're gonna get a million Muhammad. So when you say a god, you're not actually referring really to anybody yet. So that should be known. So a group of beings had a counselor that was amongst them, that was teaching them and training them. And so what you can think of is this, is that now you got these sons of gods, basically sons and daughters of gods, and they're just learning. They're young, they're upstarts. And what is assigned to them is one major being that has already been through all of the cycles and been through all of the systems as their counselor. And this is why Guru is depicted as being larger, because it's holding all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom, multiple lives, multiple live streams, and is doing that in joy, which is also a massive technique, because a lot of beings are holding a lot and they're doing a lot, but they're not doing that in joy. It's another whole nother technique and a whole other level of mastery to do a lot and to be a part of a lot of things and to never sleep and to always have to be engaged and to do that with a smile on your face. Okay, so that's the ultimate teaching of Guru. And as you know, that would be like a woman giving birth with a smile on her face. That's a lot of knowledge there that needs to happen as a being would be able to attain to go through such a grievous labor in joy. Okay, so now as we keep going on, I have to address the question so that way we don't get caught up into the opiates, right? Because like the opiates of the masses is always to hear that everything is going to be fine and everything's going to be okay. And that allows them to sit down and be a lot more easier. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to do anything. And that's not really going to get you to where you want to be, obviously. So the question that is proposed first was, and this is again in the dialogue, is after this is over, and this came up a couple times, after this is over, virus is gone, no more coronavirus. Are we still dealing with this? Are we done with dealing with an issue with the world? After this is done with, does everybody now learn their lesson and then they start coming together? They realize that, thank you. If it ended right now and there was no more coronavirus, was there anything really learned and things going to really get better? Right now, with the financial situation, there's going to be some fallout for that. So that automatically sets it up for not necessarily getting, basically getting worse before it gets better, possibly for some that are still clinging on to certain things and need to cling on to certain things. So let's just say then that while the world could be praying for this virus to be over with, what the world needs to see is that what caused the virus in the first place is still not fixed. And even if the virus is over and that's not fixed, something even more worse is going to happen. So it's best now for us to fix the situation and not put a Band-Aid on it than to actually get beyond what we're dealing with right now and then return to now, everybody's groaning and griping. There's no more money. The system's gone. And then because that's not a fix for us, right? So let's talk about very deeply how this fix comes in metaphysically, so you can understand the components that are the components that have been in place that have allowed this world to get to the stage that it's actually in, and how we're still looking for solutions with that problem. And that's why I personally, and the team that I'm with, the tribe that I'm with, we have been working on developing things that actually will bring real solutions for these problems that I'm going to name here that are kind of obvious. You're going to see the problems and how this occurs with other people, what really happens ultimately because we're not fixing this problem, and what is a solution for us with this problem in 2020. Not 2,000 years ago, not 1,000 years ago, not in somebody else's house, but in the world house with someone who is able to take in all of that let's say that labor, that pain, that potential, and actually really decipher what exactly it all means. That's what the guru is supposed to be doing. Okay. So the next thing here is to look at is that, so we talked about this counsel of the gods, and now we reveal why this God is able to counsel, or why this being, if you may, is able to counsel gods. Because gods don't know everything. They need counseling. So it's good to actually remove the word gods and then put this word human being, which came out of some other place to replace that, the reality that the humans are the gods. Okay, and the gods needed counseling all the time because they were like small fries. They hadn't necessarily grown up yet to get into the high level of awareness. Now, this is where the story here begins. Brihaspati, which means counseling in a guru, is actually missing, gone. When you read the whole Hindu story of Brihaspati from the Puranas, you find out that there was this session that happened, let's say for us every day, with the grand council of all of the celestial beings. Every day, from the time of the rise of the first one, there would be like this parade, this celebration where all of the gods would come through in retinue with all of their regalia, pomp, and circumstance, okay? And this was normal. This happened every day. They say this was like what you see from when the stars are coming out, right? Like this time of when the stars start appearing and all of that, that was symbolic because the day is like ruled by the sun, right? That's the order. Now in the night, the stars start appearing one by one. So that's actually, or two by two, or they start appearing in certain successions. And that succession of the stars appearing can be seen like a celebration where all the gods, they come in, everything that they made, their uniqueness and all that kind of stuff, and their hairdo and all this. This is where you get your carnivals from. This is a carnival, okay? Because with all the energy that is being welled up by the gods, if you may, or those that are in this ceremony, all are basking in this energy. So it's just like, it's amazing. It's like every time someone else comes through with whatever it is, uniqueness that they have and their greatness, it's like, and then everybody's clapping. There's no hating because the more that this energy could keep building up, the greater it becomes. And here comes what's the name with his thing. And here comes, and then this is where the real, let's say, acting stories, drama came from. Because someone come in, it gets dark. The thunder starts coming out, some crows come by, and then, this whole thing happens in nature, and this thunder and all this kind of stuff, and then it dries off. And then the day comes, and then the birds start to, but then when it's all over, something like, okay, but it's an energetic thing, okay? So this is what was going on in the heavens, if you may, and beyond. Until one day, one of the beings, and they're just giving you a story. It doesn't mean that these stories actually happen. It doesn't mean there's people up there. They're giving you deeper levels of realizing what's happening in a form of a story. That one of the beings come in, Indra, and didn't do any of that. He was drunk on the soma. Okay? And in this process, Brihaspati felt disrespected because everybody, when they came in, gave each other props. But Indra comes in drunk, gives nobody props, and breaks the rules of how the whole celebration is to be convened. Shows off. And then because this was like a very sensitive situation, because Indra was also very connected, other beings didn't really know how to take this. So there was other guys that were sitting there like, just chill. It's cool. He's just a little drunk, blah, blah. But Brihaspati, being the counselor, was like, no, I'm out. And they say from that day forward, because Brihaspati, which is counseling, had still such an imminence that the celebration was never the same. Because as it keeps going, Brihaspati disappears. And because Brihaspati's power was that he could remove himself and no one could find him. Now remember, this is counsel, this is wisdom. Could remove itself and no one would even be able to find it. So then Indra, still drunk, this is the attitude, still drunk, was like, don't worry, we don't need Brihaspati. Tomorrow we're all coming back. I got some chicks. They dance too. Y'all come back tomorrow, right? And then tomorrow begins, the celebration starts, it's going well, and when Brispati is about to walk in, there's no Brispati, and then the energy goes down a little bit. This is where maximum knowledge comes in at. It doesn't matter really who we are. If we're not in attendance, the energy is not the same. Something is missing. This is a powerful lesson for all beings across the cosmos. If one being is removed, everybody feels it. So one of the, let's say, I'm just giving you the paraphrasing the story that is very long. One of the guys decides, like, look, man, I don't even really want to participate anymore either. Brisbati's not going to be here. The energy's not going to be the same. I'm really not going to be vibing with this. And plus, Indra, he was drunk. So this whole thing, I can't really handle it. I'm going to go try to find Brispati. And this god sets off to go and find something that is making itself invisible from everyone. When next day comes around, ceremony starts again. It's going. That god is missing. Brispati is missing. This kills the energy again. And one by one, the gods began to walk away from the celebration. Okay, now let's put this into context of 2020, okay? What is being said is that this counseling that is constantly needed is also elevated itself. It's not just like a book, an inanimate book. Consciousness is alive. Wisdom is alive. And it can be offended. If you want to act like a fool, you want to do it the way you want to do it, wisdom's not going to be a part of that. Because it is a living energy. It's like it will sit and give you counsel until you start being like a fool. And then it'll move away from you and you'll be turned over to other instructors and other teachers. You won't have that high counselor or high guru. And I'm going to explain to you how this all starts playing out in 2020 version. So now the counselor has been removed from the gods. So obviously the gods themselves, and more like the sons of gods, being very immature, revelry begins. Now there's no one to say, you should be doing it this way. This is how your father did it. This is how we do it in the cosmos. That wisdom is removed. And now the beings are acting out on their own volition and they have power. So you see what ensues, the meltdown of Lemuria. Everything becomes divided. Gods go into their own domain. Certain weapons are taken. Certain gods start having feuds because there's no counsel anymore. No counselor, no wisdom, no mentor. So then, as this goes on, we want to decode some things because we realize, as we read in the text here in Wikipedia, that Brispati's enemy was Shukra. Okay, so despite the story of Indra, more knowledge is actually dropped by just this statement. Brispati's enemy was Shukra. Now, in Tamil and even in Sanskrit, technically, there's no word for friend, enemy, or good or bad. There's supposed to be no words that indicate these things because all that is falsehood. It is the road to falsehood. Everything has a place. So these ancient languages are supposed to be so proficient. If they're ancient, they don't contain these kind of polarities like good or bad, because there's a floating point. There's a good Brispati, there is a bad Brispati, and there's a neutral Brispati. This means there's a good counselor, there's a bad counselor, and there's a neutral counsel. So everything has that Trimurti effect to it. So in the language, that's built into the language. There's no duality going on in the language. English is not like that. English is riddled with duality. The Brothers Grimm did a job on English to make sure it was a dualistic language where angel must be fighting and conflicting with demon all the time. Okay? So now when it says Brispati's enemy is Shukra, what it's saying is that Brispati, or the reason for counsel, is because of the activities of Shukra. Okay? Now when you research Shukra, Shukra is Venus. If you go to Wikipedia and you type in Shukra, Shukra, it is Venus. And as it mentions here in the text about Brispati, Venus or Shukra is actually the master of the demons, the one that gives wisdom to demons. Okay, so now listen to this. Now I'll read it verbatim. That way, it doesn't seem like maybe I'm just coming up with this stuff. There's no need. The Earth story doesn't need anything else to be added to it. Let's see where we at here on the screen. Something else is appearing on the screen. That's not on my screen. Okay. Okay, give me a quick second. I'm going to X out these screens. Delete. Delete. Screen capture. Add. I don't even know why that was stuck in where it was. But who cares? All right, here we go. So, as it says here, right here, Puranic ideology, which is knowledge from the Puranas, is famed as one. So they're saying Shukra, let's start here. Shukra in Puranic ideology is famed as one with the knowledge that raises the dead back to life. Something that helps the violent evil return to life, even after the gods and the forces destroy them. This knowledge is sought by gods and is ultimately gained by them. Okay, this is like the key to the whole thing right here. Beyond all of the extra pomp and circumstance that keeps going on, it's this part that is the most important, because this is where the wisdom is about what Shukra really means. Shukra is Venus. Venus is Lucifer also, as they're calling it these days. You see, it has a lot to do with demons. It even says that the power of Shukra, just so you understand it here, let me just pull this up one more time so it doesn't seem like I'm creating stuff. It says in another account, Shukra divided itself. Again, when it says himself, this is again the stupidity. When something can divide, it won't be one sex. So to say it divided himself into two is like a paradox, a conundrum. It had to be an androgynon, divided itself into two, one half becoming the knowledge source for the devas, the gods, and the other half being the knowledge source for the asuras and the demons. Now, again, this is a template because Venus, as the number 6, there are more sixes in the world than any other path in anyology. There's more sixes, meaning that this particular template is used more to create beings and has the most, let's say, beings created through it than any other templates in the world right now is the 6 template or the Shukra template or the Venus template. Why? What does all of this mean? Why is Shukra the enemy of Brihaspati or council? So let me make this clear for you in 2020. It's because, first of all, when you have counsel or wisdom, which is wise, okay, part of wisdom is not to propagate too much, to not like keep going with fertility too much, because you have to rear every single thing that you actually create. You have to raise it. So since Guru is a counselor, Guru doesn't believe in actually not raising children properly or things that you create without wisdom. So that's what makes it the enemy of Shukra, because Shukra is capable and has the power of bringing things from the dead back to life, that the gods are like, why are you guys doing that again? The higher beings like, why is everybody, why are y'all doing that again? Why are you bringing that back? Why are you bringing the entity of war back? We got rid of the entity of war. Who is doing this? Shukra? For the tattletale god. Shukra did it. Venus, why are you bringing back things from the dead? These are my children. They all deserve a chance. That's why this whole thing with Venus being an Inanna, etc., the mother of the monsters. So why that doesn't may not make sense for you right now, because you're thinking of monsters on some astral plane and all that. People are missing seeing themselves. We're missing seeing some of these kids that are actually here on the planet right now when the parent didn't have a counselor. There are cultures right now that they're still just getting it together. They still spit on the floor, dig in their nose, no problem. Don't clean anything, have dirt all over the floor and all of that. That's just a process. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong with it, but you would have to grow up. That's why I said Mercury's other name is hygiene. right? That is the name. Hygiene is a Greek term of the goddess Hygiena. So this means that there is this cultivation process that also has to happen with the beings that are coming from, let's say, that other space, where they have to be reared and counseled properly so that they understand the ways of higher levels of existence. This is what Guru was doing. Hey, you should probably clean yourself up. You should probably, manicure yourself, because the field you're carrying is actually going to equate to the kind of beings that are around you. If you perfume yourself up, you only have sweet things around you. But if you're stench and you're stank, then you'll have a lot of dark forces or distorted forces around you. That's how it works. These are vibratory frequencies. So if you're saying that you want this kind of life and this kind of existence, then you're going to have to go through this process of realizing the vibratory frequencies and how that affects you. Now, when they first come in, let's say the daemon knows nothing of this, is very similar to a beast itself, just coming up from the last ka, or the last vessel that was created for it, which in this range actually is a dog body. So this means that when the transition or the transmigration of the souls is taking place, as they're coming from the insects into the trees, or the trees into the insects, and the insects into, let's say, the fish, everything that still has scales. And then as that comes more into the other vessels, like the dolphins, and the dolphins to the whale, then the whale. And as it goes into the felines and the felines, and then it goes from there. As it's going up, that's the transmigration of a soul. If you just want to know, like, you didn't start off as a human being. Some were greater and some were less. That is that own being's story. That's why you can never judge a being. Only those with wisdom can judge. That's why the wisdom thing is around the judges, or who are supposed to be the real judges, because you need to know where the being came from to insist that this is the bad one because of the way it's carrying out. As I said, you needed to see where it was before, because it could have been so distorted. This, what you're calling bad right now, is actually an improvement. And then likewise, we have angelic beings that are on the planet now floating around, and we think that those are the beings that, oh, they're so high and they're awake and blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, it was already a supreme being. And this is actually a downgrade from where it was before. So that's why it's not good to judge, because you need to know where something was before in order for you to determine if where it is now is actually what you would say is higher or lower. And then even once you come to that conclusion, it's not like you've gotten too far, because who are you to judge? The only one that is judging generally is the gurus and those in that role, because they're doing that to actually assist the being, not to cast the being away. Now these judges, they go and lock people up. That wasn't the original system. The system was you were in front of the judge would discern what was going on in your energetic field, and then literally prescribe counsel. That's why you got counsel in the courtroom. So it would supply counsel, and these would be beings that would start to counsel you in your ways. That became your parents. So the reason why Brihaspati is so not feeling Shukra is because Shukra keeps bringing these beings into the world through sex, which is 6. And these beings are coming in and they don't have any counsel. So now I told you have most of your children playing Modern Warfare right now. Call of Duty. You have most of your kids playing Fortnite right now. So notice how also our elders, the vibration of our elders, this is why we need to hold this up. Like, we got to hold this up. It was like what they were saying about how the Pope decided that there was no longer purgatory. You remember that whole thing? It was like 3 or 4 years ago. The Pope decides that purgatory is not really a real concept. There's no more purgatory. And all the people just go into hysteria because they're like, well, I thought, remember the whole criteria of purgatory was that even if you didn't like repent and all that you could still remain in purgatory, and that if, as a family member, we were repentant and we knew the Christ, then the Christ would intercede on behalf of our people that were in purgatory and get them out of purgatory. Imagine how these people are like idiots at this point. Like, how could you believe that? Y'all didn't like believe something that nobody even said was true. You think that another person can get another person out of another area that this guy just decided that he's going to get rid of? It takes us really to actually create nets to that when souls fall, they fall right into the nets of the consciousness and the foundations that we're building. So what happens is that if we are not here, just to summarize this, if we are not here to bring in systems, I don't care what you bring, how you bring it, just bring it. Something that is going to en masse start educating beings about who they are. Like all these children that are running around out here. You got 67-year-old children now. So that's what I was saying, that what's happening is that we have our elders right now in the dimensions, because it's their wavelength, it's their vibration, their frequency that holds us up. They're like our purgatory, if you may. And when they get scared, our foundation basically starts to shake if we haven't figured out how to get wings yet. Why are elders so scared right now? Well, our elders are being told 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that this ravenous crown killer is looking for them the most. So you have old people say like, oh, okay, I can't even afford to catch this. They're saying that, oh my goodness, we're all dying. So at this stage, let's say that elder vibration and frequency, which is our foundation, that is where that part of the spectrum that exists for us on that life of happiness, joy, the simple things in life, all of that exists within a certain wavelength and frequency. And that frequency is shaking right now. It's scared. And there are some of our elders moving on. They're rising into wholeness. The more of us become awake, we are able to receive knowledge, wisdom, gems, all sorts of things, light, full spectrum light from the elders as they ascend. But we also have to, as metaphysicians, realize that, hey, our foundation, we all need wings. And I don't think everybody's going to be able to grow wings in enough time. We need to build a net. We need to build a net because there's going to be some that fall, and they need to fall right onto this net. That way they don't go deeper into the chasm and hit the repeat button on everything that they already been through. Now they're going to have to climb back through the slime again. If they don't know who they are, then they don't know where they came from. So there is no floor to fall to for them. That's why we have to give security to each other. We have to make each other feel wanted. Make each other feel that this is something that we can do. We can, but we have to do this. We have to feel that vibration. We have to feel like we want to, and we have to know why. And some people, they're just cool with not even knowing why. They just help. They just do. It's just in their core. While other people, they need a reason. They need a reason to help. So now you have your reasons. If we don't start assisting in bringing things that are in mass, different languages, going to make people aware of themselves, then we're not going to fix the issue that the virus is actually causing. So we have the problem, but the solution exists before the problem. So let's keep just demystifying this very briefly. There's only a few other things here. So what we're saying is that, remember Shukra's story. Now, first of all, every time they now throw these deities up here on Instagram or Wikipedia, they're always male and pink, okay? This Shukra is dark, black goddess, okay? Like, period. It's in the ancient text, virtually reptilian, that a level of melanation. So it's an androgynous, predominantly feminine goddess that was already a part of a huge family structure. And we talked about it before, that Shukra did not really have a name. This is like the fourth or fifth daughter in a family. Doesn't really have a name or an allotment and those kind of things. As the families grew larger and larger and larger and more numerous as the stars. That's what you're seeing in India right now. Like their population level, they're not even that crazy with the whole thing about this. You know, this may get a little vulgar with it, but in India, they're not all crazy with the pornography, like having pornography all over the place. And they're still wearing the saris, and they're not out there twerking, and they don't have any of that going on in the culture, but yet the culture is multiplying faster than any other culture. Same thing with China. It's because the lineages that they come from, if you look at the temples in the Lemuria and then all of really the sutras, which sounds good anyway. Let me get a little bit of that sutra. All of this of their culture is built on the reality and awareness of the funkendating components and how that is a level of power. But where there is power, there must be order. And so the beings that were rearing up those beings there, meaning the parents that were rearing up the children of Lemuria, were teaching them in the forms of the temples and the structures on how to stay together, how to connect, how to make the energy really work. It was basically using the human body as a fuel tank, or it's even more than a fuel tank because it was also conscious. The human body was not only a fuel cell, but also a citizen or a denizen or a member of the ship. Okay, so how you see there's a temple where they show all of these beings and they're all in these sexual positions and they're all connected to one another. This is the ship of Lemuria. It's where every single being is plugging into the other being and they're all activated in tantra. And the energy is so massive, it is a moving force within itself, and that is the world or realm of Lemuria. So now when you see those temples broken, now you understand that the consciousness of our Indian brothers and sisters is also a bit broken. And they're suffering the worst right now from this situation that's taking place because they are numerous. And Brihaspati is back there like, I told you so, Shukra, teaching that tantra of how to bring back things from the dead, how to get into the sexual copulation. That is the serpent on the tree. The serpent on the tree is Shukra. Eve and the serpent are entwined. It's like you just need to read the original story. So it goes on in the original story that the power of procreation got into the hands of Shukra. And she began to raise the dead, raising lower vibratory frequencies into another life where they could see the light through her womb. And this is why Inanna has such a struggle in the whole pantheon, because she's literally working herself up through the ranks. Inanna is also Gaia. Shukra is also Gaia. It's a vibration. It's a frequency. Astro, Astara. So in that vibration and frequency, if you know the story, that Shukra had to do different things in order to get the power of the gods. It wasn't just like she was virtuous and obtained that through virtue. She actually attained that to the kin of prostitution. Prostitution being to actually, as a bright star and a shining light, entice others to come in and to fall into her. Okay, this is the process of mating an angel with a demon. So as we see in the Sudanese tribe, in the Sudanese tradition, with the crescent moons branded on the forehead, still a part of the original tradition, that the whole purpose of copulation is a whole different thing than what we're using it for now, even though what is the process is still happening. Meaning we don't know completely in the Western culture what the sexual thing is and what it does and what it was used for in ancient times, and especially why you had to be very cautious about how you used it, especially when it came into bringing in life. And it was because that when you have the virgin, right, and then you have the bridegroom. Now the bridegroom almost serves no other purpose than to actually be there to shoot the electron gun, so that way that the spark coming from the gun is inseminated by the being that is already moving through the cosmos. So let me explain this, okay, so you can really understand the birds and the bees. Maybe some start growing up here, or the bards and the bees. So what happens is the ritual is taking place. If you understand that every time a child was being born, back in the ancient times, you had the czar, which are the women matriarch. The old women would be in the room. This means that day that you were going to have, let's say, sex, or your first time with your mate, you weren't even alone. You were in there with older women that were telling you how to do it. The gurus were even then like this, put it in now. Serious. This is just not, the culture is so defunct that we're dealing with now. None of that was seen to be odd, because what was about to happen. Now, the virgin, she's giving off like a sweet smell. Anyway, like her body, when it goes into this fertile system, it gives off this smell like a flower that maybe most humans, they're like pheromones. That's the thing. It's a pheromone, okay? But she's a virgin. She's never been with another man. So the other woman that they have there also is more of like, she's very educated in men. Some in English, some would call her a prostitute. But again, these words have a different meaning for us. They hire her to come in that night to teach the woman how to shake herself and how to move herself to attract. And she only comes in on that night, and she is hired to do that. That's why she became a prostitute. But it wasn't to sleep with other men. That's another, that they call that something else. So this lady was brought in, and she had all the wisdom of how to attract men, and she taught the bride that night over a series of time, like 3 days, of how to dance. And then when the bridegroom came in, if you may, the bride would begin dancing. Now, a lot of stuff also is going on. Incense are being burned. Certain music is being played. Fires are being lit. Corners are being, called in. There's other things that these elder women, these czars, are actually doing because they know what's about to happen, because everything is based on this timing. Because as we talked about before, your birthday is not when you arrived into the planet physically. Your birthday is the time that you were the day you were conceived. Because then 9 months, and you're already alive. Once you're conceived, you're basically alive at that point. You're ruling from the egg. And it takes 9 months for you to go through the process of finally getting into this realm. So the moment that insemination starts is the moment that you were conceived. So how they had this designed is that they knew certain stars that would be passing over during a certain time. These are what we call the wandering stars, not the watchers. The watchers are fixed stars. They're stuck in place. They're in stasis, basically. Versus the stars that move, which you would call falling stars, and the meteors, etc., they're untethered. So they're free, if you may. Okay? So the ritual was conducted to where they basically needed to shoot the electron gun around the same time that the star would be passing over, so that way it would be attracted. Because this is why there was dowries and payments and all that kind of stuff, because if the woman was able to attract the right star to inseminate her at the same time that the male also inseminated, which the male in this case carrying the demon, and the angel being attracted to the woman, so the angel being matched with the demon, this would create a child that was basically a gift, because it would have the power of this being that was coming through. It would have an essence. See, it's not you're going to take the entire being and put it down in here. No, an essence of it. It's attention. It's attraction, which is only still a part of who we are. So from that moment where the being would be coming over, then the ancestors and these elder women czars, they knew, because they also had sensitives. They even had other women that were speaking to the Zayrin, which are another group of beings that have more awareness of the stars. So they would tell them now, basically, the alignment is right. And then the male will be sent in there, go now. Like, see, he's like shook in there. His has no real use but this electron gun. So he would go in there, and of course, she's dancing and everything. He would attempt to impregnate her. And once that spark happened from that attraction, the angel would see it and would be attracted to it and will go into her womb. This process. Now, oftentimes, the reason why hygiene needed to be practiced and this culture needed to be practiced properly is for multiple reasons. And you read this in the book, that if also there are other beings that kind of know that this is going to happen. And they're trying to get into the world too. They're outside of this world, or actually outside of what we would call time. And they also, they gossip. They have like a whole social life over there. So they're like, okay, there's about to be a wedding. There's about to be, soon they're going to be doing a ritual. There's going to be a time for us to get into the world, right? So the czars, they were the ones that would be like, okay, no. They knew how to, ward off these things, fight them, destroy them, strike fear in them, all this kind of stuff to try to keep this union pure so this woman can be inseminated by a genius. Okay? So this is complicated stuff is what I'm saying. This is not just haphazard. I had a couple wine coolers and now let's go and get to it. This was precision. You had to have precision to bring in a genius, to bring a God in. So when it went wrong, and this is like the stuff of horror movies, the baby would be born with deformities. The baby would even be born with diseases. If the insemination didn't happen right and the angel did not catch and another being came in and or the ritual wasn't conducted properly or the fire went out or something like that, it would leave it open to other entities that are numerous. They say they are numerous, all looking to get into this world, all looking to be a beautiful virgin. As you hear this knowledge and wisdom, even later on, it'll start clicking to you about how much is actually happening in the world that we're not even thinking about. That's actually coming out as child abuse and all this kind of things, but actually equate to deeper things that even happen to us. That's why it's important for us to be at this stage of our own awareness so that we can start we need to know what's actually happening. So as it continues, and another being inseminates, now what happens is disease, that's where disease comes from. That's where you get other entities in the world that don't necessarily belong in this space yet. And this is why the OTO and the Golden Dawn with the moon rites, this is what they were actually attempting to practice. They were attempting and had succeeded in bringing in a distorted being. They wanted to bring in a distorted being. That's why when you look at all this Megadeth, all this heavy metal, even the people that play with that, they don't really want none of that. Meaning that the people who wear the shirts, go to the concerts and all into it, when that thing appear in the room, do you think that that's what they were playing with it? But that's real uncleanliness. So what happens is that started happening so much, even right now, where divine beings were going into the sexual practice without a czar, without a guru, without a counselor. And then they were being coerced in many cases to open up the portals for beings that were defiant. Some of us even make up some of those beings. I don't want you to start thinking, wow, they out there. We need to get rid of them. I need you to start passing it off onto somebody else. When you accept it is only when you can do something about it. The defiant ones, they don't listen to anybody. They're like zero chill. You try to tell them what's going on and they're hard-headed, literally like a diamond. You cannot tell them what to do. They got all this fire and passion and desire because they are coming from power. Some of them even daemons, some part angel, some 3/4, 1/4, 1/8 angel. Still carrying genius inside of them, but also trying to balance that with a distorted culture, a distorted petri dish, a distorted way of upbringing, and then no guide. Their guides are blind because they cannot see the truth. That just means that those who are giving the counsel these days don't know this story. So how are you going to give counsel generally if you don't really know the story? Because you're only counseling the child, if you may, through the process of the story. So that way it can go through the healing process. So this is the story of today. This is the relationship between Shukra and the guru. This is Thursday. Now remember, tomorrow is Friday. So you see how this all rolls into procession? And then now we get a chance to realize that the reason why, especially for me personally, that I'm creating things that now we have genealogy for kids, first genealogy for parents, put it onto their cell phones because that's where they're at right now. Let them know more about themselves. Let's get something mindful actually happening here by the true term. Why? Because it's going to actually save everything if it works. It is the net and the what we need to create. Once we have it in one thing, Like if it's one card, now that could be translated into all languages. But if it's just in our minds, if it's just in the conversation, in the speech, and it doesn't get really out to everyone, if it's just on a YouTube video, and then you play it to someone, they don't even understand what's going on, and then when the translation happens, this translation loses all the real meaning of what's being said, which serves to confuse things even more. Well, that's not going to give us a different situation. Last night, I thought about whether I should give up or whether I should re-innovate. I have those moments. So, should you settle at what's happening right now, or can you do something else? It wasn't a give up, it was a settle. Like, hold right now, all the cards on the tables are the ones that are in. Let me see your hand. Or do we pass this in again because you got something, you even got a greater hand? And I had to think about it for a moment. Because I don't want my optimism to lead me into folly. I don't want my overall demeanor and way of being, just a joyous person that wants to help and assist as many beings as possible, to put me into some level of foolishness because I'm not seeing something that I should be seeing. So I sat back to make sure I wiped my lens. And you know what it said after a while? Why don't you just come completely out of the entire construct of what you think can be possible for me for a moment? Finish what you're doing, but I now want you to tap into a whole new vibration. Imagine you bringing in something truly that has never been done. You can't reach that yet when you're way down here working in a substrata of words and terms and ideologies and things that happen to that are ones that are available. That is what is to teach you how to create something truly unique that no one has ever seen before. And it is an exhausting trip up that ladder of everything that's already been done. And it does narrow itself out after a while because there are things that you can do that few have done. But then once you get to the peak, you're going to get to the thing that's never been done. And I'm talking to all of you. Where the consciousness breaks out of the shell completely of what everybody thinks could be possible. And you start coming into the reason why you have created all these things, and the reason why you learned all of these things, and the reason why you are even you. And what that truly means that this is about that you create something that changed everything. You create something that fixed problems all across the cosmos. They were no longer interested in people who could just put bandages on things. We needed somebody that could come in with a total fix. And we need as many beings as possible to do it as many ways as they can. Whatever is your specialty, bring it to change everything. And this is the counsel that I got last night. And I said, you know what, you're right. Or balanced. This could change everything. We know it can change everything. We know the key foundations and the fundamentals to how the whole thing was put together. And we've even accepted as being a work of our own rather than denying it. And now we got these demons and we got these angels. And they're all kids at this stage because they're broke. Now it's going to take surgeons' work, truly, to put this back together. This is, again, why we keep seeing this underlining theme of the snake. Present is an anagram for snake. Surgeon, the S-U-R in surgeon means snake. Shukra is a snake. So what happens here in all of this is, if we can't realize this angel in this daemon, or this snake in this bird, we can't bring the two kingdoms together. You can't be Nesut Bit, which is like what they would call a pharaoh. You cannot be the ruler of the upper and the lower kingdom. That's what, if you look in Kemet, which is really Syriad, the real name of Kemet in the biblical tense etymologically is Syriad, which is its reference to Sirius. You cannot unite these two forces if your kingdom is at war. And we've been talking about this all week, showing different visuals of how we're at war with ourselves and racially and in our awareness through our dogmas, what we think is going on. It's time for us to know what's happening. And generally, the knowledge that we don't know, it's not that it's not in front of us, it's just that we're not willing to accept it. There's an issue that humanity is having right now with accepting that they have a demonic side. And they also have an angelic side. You either get people polarized. They think they're only angels or they think they're only demons. And they don't see that this is a process, because this is a story being told. No matter who you're saying is mad or the enemy of another, those words don't exist. This is a story being told about how beings come from the lowest realms and go to the highest. And who kicked that off? What energetics was responsible for doing that, and why? What was their motives? As we know, in conclusion, Inanna or Shukra found the name of God, which was not only the child, but also utterance and tones, MEs, as it's called in Sumerian text, and raised forth groups of beings and taught many of those beings that knowledge. Shukra was a teacher. Look at what it says. He taught devas and taught demons, taught asuras and taught devas. So it's telling you this all right here. And now we have to see that when we bring children into the world, whether we are going to be the Shukras and teaching this child exactly what it should know, or whether we're going to be the gurus, either way, these children need to know who they are, and they need to know which way they're going. And while we try everything else, Greta Thunberg, shut down all the things and shut down the environment and save the environment. Well, it's shut down now. Now we have what would have been obvious is now where's everybody going to go to? Where's it going to be their jobs? We have this power of collective manifestation, and people are manifesting things out of order. So many people got together. Yeah, let's shut down all of this. Shut it all down. Now it's shut down. Now we got to manifest something really fast about how people are going to sustain themselves. Hey, we should have done that one first. Anyway, we can't hit rewind. Let's keep going with it. This is where you start. Know the story. Know your story. It's internal. Know where you're coming from, so that way you get a good map of where you're going. Realize the connection that we all share in all of this. If anybody lets go, we have a hole in our net. And more than likely, when someone falls, they're going to fall right into that hole. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So we have to keep redundifying each other. If you see a brother and you see a sister that's slipping, see as much as you can how to keep them stable. If you're armed with the proper knowledge, this is not difficult. Oh, they love this. This is better than Star Wars. They are the actual character in the theme now. Now they're half Sith Lord and half Jedi now. It's funny, Jedi is actually another word for Jupiter or guru. You see what I mean? So this story is continuously being told, but they want to play with you with the story. They want to capitalize on you with the story about, these two opposing sides, and they got you watching it like you're watching a sports game, never realizing that it's you on the field. So learn these aspects of self. Later on in certain texts, you know how they start saying, well, in another text, this is what happened. This is like when ancients decide to change the story. There's another text that Brispati popped back up. That there were some beings that knew how to find beings that when they hide themselves, they couldn't be found by other beings. Damn, we always know how to create solutions. There was another being, Sirius, that came up, and that being said, my power is I know how to find beings that know how to hide themselves from all the other beings. Let me go and find him. And then he found Brispati, and Brispati was like, no, I'm not coming back. And there was a long conversation that this being that had that power had with Brispati, and convinced it to come back and to give counsel. As I said before, in finishing Shukra's story off, Shukra got the name of God. So what this means is Shukra gained the ability of what would be like a supreme of the supreme being, which is to create. That's why I said, hey, if you eat this apple, which is the pentagram, you'll become like them. You'll know as they know. All right, so that's what that statement means. So Shukra got that name, and she knew as they knew. And that's why there's a sexual thing that happens right there in the garden with the snake. If you're reading closely and you're reading from the Hebrew. And what was brought forth was the first man, Cain. And you get Cain's story. So you can see that that first level of copulation already had us in a bit of trouble because nobody even knew what they were doing. She didn't even know what they even do, and just started creating right away and opened up a gateway for other beings that had been put away to start coming back into the world of the light again. And so that's like the Pandora's box story. So then from the box came forth all of these, first the monsters. It's like a procession in itself. First all of these beings, then all of these beings. And that is the story of this existence. If you may, first dinosaur, the 12 dinosaurs, the 13 dinosaurs that they figured out on TED Talk, that there was only 13 dinosaurs. There wasn't hundreds of dinosaurs. Ancestors are the precursor to what you're seeing now with human 3.0. And we've trudged through the sludge, like in Darwin's theory, crawling out of the mud onto the land, gaining wisdom bit by bit, by the sweat of our own brow, toiling in the field. Even the angels are here. As they say, a third of them fell with Semyaz. What does Semyaz mean? You heard of Semyaza? The chief angel who fell to earth, right? The story is so cricket at this stage because those so-called Jews keep changing the story so much. It bears no resemblance of what really happened and why the Watchers bound themselves on Mar Harman, which is where we get the word harmony from. But instead of getting into that, because we could say that for Friday, I just want you to see Semyaz means what? Semyaz was the chief, the ruler of the fallen ones, quote unquote. Okay, so this just means that all of them that end up coming through here, this was their leader. What does the name mean? Because we're not looking for a being or a person, we're looking for a rank. It says the Semyazas. It means the or my name has been seen, has seen. He sees the name, or I have seen. Okay, this is what it means. He sees the name. What does that mean? The being has the name, has the word, and the word does not come back void. This means that it has the power of creation, which is that of the supreme being. And then now that it's creating and generating, that's why Venus became known as like this generator, abundance. Now we've got all these kids and everybody's like running away from the responsibility, not understanding how to actually sit down with children again and tell them the story. Even the 30-year-old children or 40-year-old children, passing the story back to the youth. That's why all of our elders pass stories back to us. It's like, let me tell you the story. Every culture has these stories, right? They got a whole stack of stories. And those stories are being lost. Even like the Popol Vuh and all those stories, what those meant to those people is the same thing that I'm explaining to you right now. It was just in their variant, how they saw the world. But that's why you're able to find these same archetypes in every tradition. And that's why I said it's not that there was a secret society that was going all around the whole world, sharing the same form of knowledge and wisdom to everybody and putting them all under that law. That's not what happened. What was occurring is that this was already known to be the forerunning of everything that we were experiencing. These entities, the sun, the moon, and right now in this stage, and I'm not saying in other places in cosmos, they got other stories. They got other geometries, non-Euclidean geometry. No, they got totally different things happening. But here on Phi and Pi and Phi is the pentagram. Pentagram is Venus or Shukra. When she teaches knowledge to the demons, the star is upright, is inverted. When she teaches knowledge to the angels, the star is upright. That is the knowledge. So that is again the knowledge about the name, the elements, how to bring things into creation. The pentagram is used also in China as a relation to the dragon. It is all of the elements of the dragon, or all the elements of the planetary system, which is seen like a big dragon. and how to master and how to control and how to balance them. And those that are wise, when you read through the story of the fallen angels, all the fallen angels weren't bad. Only the new renditions try to say that all of these fallen angels were the bad ones. That's just trying to crunch like a 1,000-year story into like a couple sentences. This is about the saga, truly, of this existence that we're in and the beings that were attracted into this womb and the lives in which they shared with other beings that were attracted into this too. And the struggles they went through with their shadows also being present. Because they say that you cannot have an angel without a demon. So it's better to have them both together. But in the dualistic world, they're separated and you witness the horrors of them both. Why? Because the angel always wants to vanquish everything. Destroy, blot it out, remove it. It's unclean. Then you have the demon who also just wants to destroy everything. No, just senseless destruction, rebellion. So both of these forces, they cannot build separately. This is why Solomon could not build a temple. These are codes. Solomon could not build the temple without the help of angels and demons. So when gaining the ring, which we talked about yesterday, when gaining the ring, he could call in the angel in full flight. And then Solomon asked him first. Oh, excuse me. Solomon had the lesser keys first. He called in demons. So they would come in with all of the anger and the destruction and tempests and storms. And Solomon would steal them with the ring. And then communicate with them. What is the angel? And then they put it in the Bible because it's always a conflict. What is the angel that thwarts you? That's not what Solomon said. Solomon said in Hebrew, what is the angel that brings you into balance? And through that, learned all the names of the angels and the demons and built the temple with the help of the angels and the demons. This is a reference to saying that you cannot build your internal temple, which is the temple of Solomon. It's perfect phi, even a holiest of holies inside. You cannot build that temple without the awareness of these two forces and them building together. If they build separately, they will only tear the temple down. And that's why we said Cain and Abel is in the temple. This is the temple. The temporal lobes. These are the two hemispheres of the brain. So in this duality happening here between I want to do this, no, I want to do that. And this duality happening from here below, I want to do this, I want to do that. These beings not coming together, which we said is electromagnetics. You're an electromagnetic surgeon. That's the new jobs of the future. If you lost your job, you really didn't lose anything. You gained something. Now, electromagnetic, metaphysical, electronic engineer. You put magnets back together. And this is precise work. But armed with the right tools, which are none other than the supreme beings themselves, knowing these days of the week and also how they play out in others. We use genealogy as a method. We use genealogy as a method to actually bring ourselves into awareness of ourselves and also to bring ourselves awareness to the energy that is coming from another. But one who is wise in discernment, especially after knowing the system and knowing these archetypes, you can easily right away discern they're more on the Saturnalian pole with a slight touch of Hermetic. Definitely a lunar body with a slight spread of Jupiterian force. This one's definitely solar, but has a little bit of that Rahu happening. You're able to use a real system of discernment to know, and this is how that being would communicate. Because you're already making judgments when you do that. So to judge properly, you are going in to actually assist someone, to help them. But you can't come from your angle, your perspective. That's why I was saying, like right now, we're like clear face. It's called clear face and vast face. Clear face. I can oscillate through any of these paths. I could just jump into one of these roles and jump into another every single day of the week. Like I'm in blue, right? And I'm in purple, right? That's purple. That's today's color. So I oscillate. And then if I realize that maybe today is the Jupiter day, but I don't feel like I really want to go into the Jupiter energy, I won't wear these colors. I'll wear the colors of the energy that I am trying to dial in or balance out that. You see what I mean? So that's how, let's say, for instance, this knowledge and this wisdom of the stars, if you may, which they say was like what Simyaza was teaching, the knowledge and the wisdom of the stars. This is about the awareness of the resonances, the frequencies, the tones, the vibrations, the spectrums of light. Because once you understand that, not from just you took a huge course level and now you know all the frequency numbers, from the experience. You've been now here interacting with full spectrum light. That's how we're holding this space together. And now that you've been in this interaction, now you have this experience, so you know what this is about. So do not deny it. Do not deny what you saw and more importantly, what you felt. Do not deny what you felt about this knowledge and this wisdom here given to you on the planet Earth. Now it's a lot of time for people to grow up. Trees grow upward. The wood grows upward. Grow up. Be ready to accept this knowledge about especially funkendating components. The two supreme beings on the astral plane are shaped geometrically like a penis and a vagina. They don't look like what we would call human beings. They look like the generative components. The other beings, they look like the organs. As macrobes, they look like the huge organ. They don't have a face and eyeballs and all that kind of stuff that we have. So these blueprints, they unfold things. And this is why, as we call it, Siriad, which is Kemet, the study was about the Ennead. Now they got the Ennead so screwed up, you don't even test and shoot. And the knowledge on this is like, it's all distorted. It's the same knowledge right here, though. You just have to fill in the blanks. These are the numbers. 1, that's the sun. 2, that's the moon. 9, that's Mars. 5, that's Mercury. 3, that's Jupiter. 6, that's Friday, Venus. 8, that's Saturn, Saturday. 4, that's Rahu, north node of the moon. 7, that's Ketu, south node of the moon. So once you know that, which is not hard, this is not hard, you just got to spend some time. You know the whole lyrics to most of the songs you really like. So just knowing that and being able to pop that off, the consciousness will do the rest. You don't have to well, so where's more books? You can learn more about it. There's plenty of stuff that we have on it. But once you know the sequence is an algorithm right inside of your brain because you know now the story of yourself. So we're going to go ahead and go into meditation. It's 8 minutes. It's 8:12 now on this side. I'm sure that this was possibly instrumental in you seeing what needs to occur, that for us to truly get rid of this virus, we need to create more things to educate the youth about themselves. We can't just leave them hanging. We don't want like one of those crazy movies from the future. They show that everybody's a kid, that there's no more old people left. Like they have like this 3-year-old or 6-year-old boss. You know what I mean? That whole ideology and concept they want to push into the reality, like getting rid of the elders and the ancestors, getting rid of the counseling. Counselors feel welcome when we're actually doing what they tell us. What offends Brihaspati? Drunkenness. Just, I don't care. I'm not listening. I don't even care what you're saying. I don't want to do with that. Just that sluggishness. I don't even, whatever. Where's the next channel? All right. All right. I'm going to disappear. So that way I'm not around when all that pops off of that next lesson you're going to get. And you're going to wish that you had high counselors just to give you the high levels of knowledge so you could go to the next stage. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to sit around all the time getting low-level knowledge about basic stuff? You shouldn't do that. This is where this comes from. That's where that comes from. We're ready for this higher stage of our awareness also. All of us. This is how you really connect. I'm on the astral plane right here. You see me? Did you see me last night? When we call each other up and be like, yo, we could talk about what happened in the astral plane or what we did in the dream on this side and the other gonna bear. Well, yeah, I was there, yo. This is wild. We actually can meet each other on the astral plane. How do we do that? Synchronization. The more of us are aware of this knowledge, it's like we're putting the blanket back together so that there's no holes. Then no one misunderstands or is confused about where everything comes from. Every time someone's doing something, you're not confused and not being able to use wisdom about your judgment that you've gained about what all that is coming from, so that way you can do something about it. I know what that being experienced. I know where they're from. I know that they were left in the cold in Poland and no one came to get them. I know the ones that survived, when most of them died, they end up making it to Hollywood. I know that they never forgave the world for abandoning them. I know that they sworn that they would never care for any others than themselves. You see, so there's other family groups that are also moving, and because there was no one there when they were children to assist them when the cold came, they stayed frozen over. Earth, like I said, I'm in paradise right now. I'm in Costa Rica. Everything is like trees and birds and all this kind of stuff, but that's not every environment on the planet. There's deserts. There's ice lands. There's swamps. And many are from those spaces. And that is their mother in essence. That's why you have the Pleiades. Not all the sisters of the Pleiades, some of the girls were young. They didn't even know how to raise children. They had children and just, some of them even had children with animals. And all we stand here today, going up this ladder, that all heads to the same place. So that's why we have to do our best in picking each other up. We can't kick each other down the ladder anymore, acting like we're going to get rid of something. I'll say this and I'll be done. In the army of the Lord's, meaning which in the biblical tradition, they're actually training you to join an army. And only those that truly aspire, truly show what are their heart and soul and mind, that they were truly connected to it, saw that force on the astral plane. Saw the armies of the Lord battling the demons. And also seeing that the weapons that were being used were that of spells that brought seals. Okay, so let me just bring you a window into the war in heaven and how it is conducted. When you join the army of the Lord, now there are many lords, so you haven't said anything when you say the Lord. When you join the army of the Lord, in this case, Tubal, which is the Bible, they put you immediately on the field once you hit that rank to war against demons, larger beings and forces that are grotesque. You're smaller, but this is your advantage over them. The advantage of an angelic over a demon is their size, and it's not that the bigger one is more an advantage. It's actually the smaller one, because the smaller one can move so fast, it could tie up one of these forces and with like an astral cord, and then they fall, boom, like a tree. And once they fall, then you bind them. That is the process of the fall. You bind them. There's like this rope that you have. They can't move. And then you cast them. You basically throw them up, and then they fall again. And when they fall, because of their weight, they make a hole. And then you seal them. Through these words of power and these spells, you put this, it looks like a sewer cap over the top of them, and it has these weird words on it. And you can hear them in there beating their power, but they can't get out. And when I was in this space, at least 2 to 3 times a week in the army of the Lord, before I realized what Christianity was really about, I often will remark, because I had my complete conscious mind while I was in there. This was that gift of lucid dreaming, now on steroids. I would often remark, man, one day those things are going to get out. I don't know. I would even say in my mind, I don't know if this is a really bona fide, proficient method of actually getting rid of these issues. But I would not dare bring that to the Lord. And you saw that. You saw all of the beings that were all aligned. Even what you would call angels with these weird eyes, like a Sumerian kind of eye, but birdmen that had no pupils in their eyes, that were completely obedient in this war. And as I began to see more and more of this plane, it started disgusting me, the whole thing, because it seemed like the highest form of racism after a while. And I felt that we could do this a different way. And that's what I agree. When I walked away from those kingdoms, when I walked away from the Christianity, I lost all my powers as if overnight. I could no longer lucid dream. I could no longer do many things. And I asked, what about my power? And I was looked at in disgust. It basically said, you figure that out for yourself. If you don't have us, you don't have any dominion or any rulership anymore, so you're on your own. And I felt better that way. That was the first night that I had a good night's sleep. Because with all the battles in the army of the Lord and all the duality and all the racism, it never got anywhere. And then I started having different dreams. After a while, I started having these dreams that were showing that I could heal the land. That my power was I could scream over the land and what was radiated would start giving flower and life again. And that there was another group of beings that operated like a team and a tribe. And all of them were way more advanced than me. But they said, man, you have something, though, that we have never seen. And you're going to be with us. And we're going to assist everybody. But there's going to be something that you need to stop doing, though, because I saw in one dream where it was like a zombie kind of being. And I just started going to war with it right away, like from the old days of the army. And I started beating on this thing and beating on this thing and beating on this thing. And then all the team was sitting back there watching me, and they were shaking their heads, and they said, see, it's that. If you keep doing that, you're going to end up becoming like them. You're going to get infected like them. And this was my first lesson about non-judgment. On the astral planes, being showing me, if you keep never reach the elevated state, because when you engage in war that way, you're becoming infected by them because you're waging war in the same frequency that they're waging war. You have another power. Your power ends wars. The only way you end war is to stop warring. And this is my step-by-step process. My knowledge did not come from just books and reading books. It came from the astral plane and the beings that were there and the experiences that I had, and me just being sober enough and not so overwhelmed by angels and demons and gods and lords and Enoch and prophets and all of that to where I would lose my sound judgment, which is within us all, to know the difference between right and wrong, good or evil. That is the wisdom of the gods. That is the why we ate from the tree. Now your eyes are open. You have discernment. You will not move like the animals. Many of the animals don't have a cognizance of right or wrong or left or right. So in the supreme zone, that's what you gain, is the ability to say, you know what? I don't care if the entire army's doing it. I ain't in no more. I'm out. We're taking the power. Take the power then. I'm not doing it anymore. I don't think that this is the way. And then to later on find out it wasn't the way. And that other beings had already found out that it wasn't the way. Beings that were actually being binded down got free. And this is also what the world is dealing with and doesn't know. And that's why when they say that when you cast out demons and that demon returns, it's 7 times stronger. What does that mean? 7 times 7. What does that mean? It means that when the demon is in the pit, it's still beating on the pit. It's beating and it's getting stronger and stronger as it beats on that seal. And if however that seal was put together, if it doesn't hold when it breaks free, it's now stronger and it rushes back to the one in which it had bound. So this is an esoteric way of saying basically that we can't really get rid of something. We can only transmute it. If you try to reduce it, chain it, Like you see all these brothers and sisters in prison right now. If you try to chain them down, they only get stronger in there. These cats are lifting weights now. They're lifting water bags. They're plotting more. And then when they finally break free, they're worse than they were when they were actually inside of there. That does not work. So that's why the true wisdom and the true counsel here is that every single being is a child. You have nothing to fear. The parent does not fear the child. The originals do not fear the creations. So you elevate yourself into the status of where you're supposed to be as an original consciousness once you have earned that and climbed to the tip of Mount Meru. And then you assist others by throwing more ropes down to pull them up, not to tie them up, not to bind them. And I know all this may be so far out for some that are listening. I know others, this may be right on point, and everything in between. And that's what we're here to do. Full spectrum knowledge for humanity. You had to know that every time the world gets really, really serious and something serious is going on, the spiritual knowledge is going to increase. Always be there ready to receive it. The moment something really crazy is happening is always going to be the time that season could also happen. Be there to receive it. Because I found out if you're in that disgruntled mood, even if you have a light sword and you're always fighting every time you go to bed, you never reach the realm of love. You never reach what they call the Elysian fields. You never reach the garden with the nectar flowing from the waterfall. You'll never reach that because that's not where your consciousness is. And when you read the ancient books, that's why they removed. There was none of this. There was no battles. There was no good. There was no evil. There was only the transmutations and the laws and the rules of transmutation. That's alchemy. That's what was taught in the Syriad. The knowledge of balancing these things. That's what it meant to be a true, let's say the doctor, the doctor is wearing his hermetics. They're the healers. This was being taught in Syriad. This was being taught in Kemet. How to really get a Kadusha staff. How to really nourish a being from barely functioning on instinct all the way into total reason. How to take a rough cut stone, a daemon, and turn it into a diamond, trillion cut. Same word, same process, so that it can reflect full spectrum light. And that process by an alchemist, those who know the gems, those who know the jewels, those who are ready to wear the breastplate, those who can don the vestments of the ephod, those who could walk into the chamber in the temple of the Solomon, into the holiest of holies, and come forth with the message. This is all reference to you going within yourself and cleaning out your own thing and, harmonizing your own demons with their angelic forces and putting them into this place and rising back. And then that way, you don't see any more of these viruses and all this stuff that's coming from within. We start all being the custodians here and cleaning up some of this stuff. Some people are always seeing this as another force in another form. If you put enough fish, rotten fish in a trash, it'll make what you call a demon. Just like that. If you don't bury it and put it in the right place and do the permaculture with it, it'll become what you call a demon. This is the first process of life. So it's not something that we're like it's an X-Men comic book and now we're talking about Juggernaut. It's about vibrations and frequencies. And there are many that know how to work with these vibrations and frequencies. It's no different than someone knowing the power of the myceliums and knowing the power of the mushroom and knowing the power of the fungus, funky little fungus, knowing the power of the feces and how instrumental that is to the process of growth and regeneration. Not trying to treat everything like a laboratory where there's a sterile environment and bacteria can't even survive, as they're saying that what makes the immune system of someone who lives in the Western world so prone is that because their environment is so sterile. Everything is sterile. From the time the child comes into the world, the hospital is sterile, the house is sterile. Everything is sterilized so much that the child has never been introduced to a bacteria. Versus if you take a child from India, he's going to survive all day. He's already been through several different diseases that would destroy an entire nation. And this is just the part of the and what they're capable of dealing with. So that happens on the spiritual level. For those that are here that felt like they dealt with a lot of dark forces in life, that's so you can get all the mineralization. Now it's time to transmute that. And the great part about it is once you've been all the way down, you can only go up. Once you've seen the low, there's only one direction after that, to the heights. And so that's what we're here for. So we're going to give this 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Going deep into the meditation in ourselves. Realizing that we've been a bit betwixt. This means just divided. And that the reason why we're coming together with ourselves is to actually heal this inner child so that the inner child grows up already. Such a traumatic scenario and situation where others are not even going through the same experience that it is. We're all going through the same experience. We're all in the same world. We're connected to our heart, through our heart, whether we want to be connected or not. I feel through empathy what is happening in the world anyway. But I do have to be like Guru, Jupiter, Brihaspati, and be able to balance that labor and be able to come enjoy a smile because I have a solution. Only frowns when there's no solutions. And then realizing everyone here is the solution. That's why I put all this work in. That's why I went through everything that I went through. Just for us all to connect. I've even also been isolated for 10 years pretty much because I'm in a country, I don't speak the language. Like, I always got stuff to do, always online and stuff like that. So pretty much I'm here. So it's not an issue for me to be in the house. That was training. For now, everybody's got to be in the house. Some folks are losing it. Selfies is not enough right now. They so much need that connection from others outside. Now they're challenged to go within and face what they rejected inside. Now the children are returning home. The prodigal son is returning. The world is no longer a place for it. A lot of our elders and parents, now the child is back home again. So that same problem, they thought, man, when you turn 18, you're going to get out my house. I know some of y'all done heard it. You're going to get out. And geez, mom, now they're back. And this is, again, because we have the name of the Supreme Being. We have the power of the Supreme God, which is how to create. Now we have to deal with what we created, angel and demon alike. And it becomes a level up for everybody that is going to accept that responsibility. Every way, every shape, every form. We all have our own uniqueness. We go at this. And we keep bringing in this unity first inside. If it doesn't happen in here, it's not going to happen out there. If you're still in this racial quarrel with yourself, I've been there. I went to the same programs. If you got an issue with certain things, even about yourself specifically, I've been there. Been through the same programs. This is the medicine for that. These meditations is the real medication. So we'll go in. I know it was a massive build today. There's really no way to avoid that when you're going to get into Guru. Guru sit down all day. You still have some images of them. They're still rolling around. They sit down all day and they just talk. Like, I guess one of the most iconic images of the Guru at this stage is Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, Osho. Just sitting there all day. My teacher say he just pop a Valium and just sit there all day and just answer questions all day. All day. And it's like not a problem. Holding all that knowledge and holding all that wisdom and still being able to smile. Talking about life, talking about death, talking about good, talking about bad. It's all the same thing, bringing it all together. That's what our children need. That's what the child in us needs. And as we go forward, we keep creating things that bring others into this awareness. And the more that we get into a situation in the world, the more people are going to be ready to receive it. It's not going to happen the other way around. It's not going to happen where people are going to eventually ignore themselves. No, they're going to actually get into themselves more. make something, create something, and make sure that it's there for those that when they wake up, they would need that encouragement. So here we are. Sending much love also to the tribe and those that have been joining in. It's been an amazing opportunity and time to be able to share this. We're only on day 14. Like, we're not halfway yet. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to keep this going. So we'll see. I guess it somehow happened at 5 in the morning. I see Akeem was going nuts over there. That's what I'm saying, baby. Let's do it. It's all right. So I guess we have to calm it down a little bit because we're going into the meditation. Unless you can do that on the astral plane, that's just as good. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play the golden intonation, 15 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and adjourn for the day. Wholeness tribe, thank you. Also, let me line this up. Excuse me. Let me line the screen up real quick here. Higher numbers in the 4 or 500, and that's great. You know, the more of us that are here, the more of us come into this awareness, and then it just spreads. Like, we share this where everyone in our own way, shape, form, whatever I told you today, you have a way of saying it yourself. So if you want to bring it to somebody, you're more than welcome. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to any of us. The truth doesn't belong to anybody. We don't want to hold her, keep her, lock her away, any of that. And we can trust that if she's free, that she's going to keep coming back and forward, as I always say, for everyone. Wholeness family, as we take the time and the opportunity to bring ourselves back into the space,